Alright, today it is time for a professional match of Terran versus Zerg, and we find ourselves on Cairo's Junction. Spawning here in the top left-hand corner of the map and playing with the blue Zerg drones. We have none other than Solar. And his opponent in the opposite corner playing with the red Terran SCVs. We are looking inside of the main base of TY. Alrighty, so here we go. If you've been watching StarCraft 2 for a little while, maybe you've been subscribed to this YouTube channel for some time, you are likely very familiar with both of these players' nicknames. They have been very, very accomplished in their own rights. They're still top tier level players as well. I mean, right now, if you were to ask someone, who do you think is the best Terran player in the world, you'd probably get Maru 50% of the time, and the other 50% of the time you would probably hear TY. It's a bit of a toss-up between these two players, but regardless, all you really need to know, in case you're unfamiliar, is that both of these players are very, very successful in their own right. So, Terran versus Zerg. I was thinking about this for a little bit. I personally think that overall, over the course of StarCraft 2's history, Terran vs Zerg is my personal favorite matchup. There's just something about it that I really enjoy. All of the units have their place. I mean, there's pretty much all of the units. Yeah, actually, all of the units for both races do have their place in this matchup. And it really comes down to the variety of strategies that players want to go for. For example, Terrans can go for mech or for bio. So with bio, they can go for marine-based armies and do a lot of drop play or maybe some slow pushes with siege tanks and all that across the map. But they can base their unit composition around the marine and the marauder. But then they can go on the flip side of that and go for mech instead. So they can go for siege tanks, cyclones, hellions, then a lot of liberators and usually Thors and whatnot as well. There's a lot of variety when it comes to the strategies and the units that Terran players can go for. Now, likewise, Zerg has a lot of options when it comes to responding to this variety of strategies as well. Zerg players can go for Roach Ravager, they can go for Hydraling Bane, they can go for Quick Tech, they can go for some early game pushes, they can go for Roach Bus, for example, Baneling pushes, quick Link Floods across the map, and likewise, obviously, Terran players have a very similar choice as well to go for Marine proxies, maybe even some Cloaked Banshee proxies. There's so much variety in this matchup that I think it's just really exciting to watch. None of the games really are very similar to one another, compared to, for example, like a Protoss versus Zerg especially. In that matchup, we see the same 5-6 minutes very often. Very many games. While there's some minor deviations that players do go for, there's not nearly as much variety as we see in this matchup. But let me know down below in the comment section of this video what your personal favorite matchup right now is in StarCraft. I would like to know. Let me know down below. Regardless, it is going to be a 1-1-1 opener right here for TY. Already going for the first two Hellions really quickly. TY did scout across the map about halfway with the first Reaper when I noticed it on the mini-map. He did decide to go for the quicker reactor, and with that, the first two Hellions here as well. If he decides to move across the map right now, and I think that's the case, he can arrive before Solar actually gets himself the metabolic boost upgrade done. This is a recent development in the Terran vs Zerg matchup, where Zerg players decide to go for the third base before they start up Link speed, and Solar indeed is gonna have to deal with a couple of these Hellions really early on already. I like this a lot here by TY, opting to play very safe, not sending the Reaper across, not actually going for the Marine either in favor of quicker Hellions, and this is already dealing a little bit of damage. Now obviously the lives of these two Hellions, they are not gonna be that precious anymore for TY. They're likely not gonna be able to ride home after this, but at the very least, they managed to carry their weight for the Terran Dominion. So, here's the cool thing about... Oh, hold up. Okay, TY decides to go for a quick fusion core as well. Is this gonna be Liberator ranged, or is it gonna be a Battlecruiser? Yes, it will be that second option of the two. Really cool stuff. Okay, so here's the thing. Over like the last half year or so, Zerg players have been going for this so-called Clash Zerg versus Terran build order, where they take the third hatchery before they start up Metabolic Boost. And this is great if your opponent goes for a quick expansion on the low ground as well, which is the gold standard in this matchup. However, For the longest time, Terran players didn't really know exactly what to do against it because the third base is down so quickly, you can't really deny it with that very first Reaper either, and it's very difficult to actually slow down the Zerg in any way, shape, or form if you still want to go for an expansion yourself. Now, by the way, the Fusion Core does get scouted, which is nice. For the longest time, however, Terran players would save up 4 Hellions, 6 Hellions, or sometimes even 8 Hellions before they moved across the map. And it turns out, if you go for the reactor before the Marine, and you switch over with the factory immediately, you can get to the other side of the map with 2 Hellions and 1 Reaper before link speed is done. It's a very minor deviation. It's a very small thing that we've seen lately in the Terran versus Zerg matchup, but it's one of the things that really does allow Terran players to once again get back into the swing of things. Now here we go. That first battlecruiser decided to use its tactical jump to make its way straight across the map. Solar, though, did end up scouting that a fusion core was out, and it turns out he's gonna be more than okay against this little bit of battlecruiser harass here in the early game. I do like it though, because obviously the battlecruiser is not just gonna be great at harassing the Zerg, it's also gonna be good against pretty much all of the early game pressure that Zerg players can go for. A couple of roaches and a couple of Zerglings did make their way rather out onto the map, but this is not really going to be able to achieve that much. I mean, the battlecruiser could go ahead and head on home and clean this up with ease. Now, another small play that I did really like right there by TY, if you look at the vision right here of Solar, look, he has seen a tech lab right there on the starport, and actually a Ravager there will be picked off. He also did see the fusion core, so as soon as TY realized, wait a second, that Overlord might actually scout the fact that I got a fusion core, he decided to start up an upgrade right there in the tech lab to make his opponent think that it might be a Liberator ranged instead of battlecruisers. It's these really small moves that I personally really like in Terran vs Zerg that do make a difference at this level of play. Battlecruiser though, getting a bit of a clean off right there. Getting patched up just a little. It's once again jumping across the map, and this time around a couple Marines are looking to maybe hit at the same time over at the third base as well. This is where this battlecruiser becomes really scary, right? How much do you want to commit to defending against it? Do you want to go Hydras? Not really. Do you just want to clean it up with Queens? Bit of a risk as well, because then you're going to have to deal with it on the other side of the map a little while later. A couple of these drones once more do get picked off. At the same time, the Marines manage to make their way towards that third base as well, while Lynx will likely be able to clean this up. Ooh, the battlecruiser actually taking a lot of damage. Ooh, there we go. It will be killed. But while they do get cleared out here as well, I do like the pressure that TY is using right here on this Zerg player already. Because on the back of this, he's transitioning towards what seems to be a Marine siege tank based army. Zerg obviously has been slowed down quite a bit. Only like 7.5 or so minutes into the game is when we finally see some of these upgrades coming up for Zerg. To put that in perspective, in a lot of these Terran vs Zerg builds, we see the EVOs go down at like 4 minutes. So this is much later than you really want it to if you are Solar. And it really allows TY to be the one who's the one who gets to decide the pace of the game. Look at that. The battlecruiser is gone. Doesn't matter. TY is going to continue to pressure for a little while longer, bringing the siege tanks right now across the map as well. Obviously, this does leave him a little bit vulnerable on the other side of the map, but so far, Zerg is committing all of the units right here to the defense. Link speed is done. Baneling speed, of course, is done as well. They're going to eventually be able to clean up the one siege tank over there, but there's still one in the back too. This is actually a rather scary push here for TY. I think eventually, though, the tank will likely be cleaned up, and with that, I think these Marines will be forced to head on back home as well. But really, this creep spread right here, right? It's not very impressive whatsoever. TY continuously piling on the pressure, already going up to 2-2 upgrades right now, way before Zerg. And this is not usually something we see in this matchup, so I like this a lot. Now even target firing down some of those Banelings and clearing out even more creep. One medevac right here on the left-hand side. This is such a scary style of Terran to play against, though, right? I mean, who expects the first 2 Hellions to move across to go into a battlecruiser play? And then immediately as a follow-up, we see more aggression coming up. And that's the scary thing about TY. He's very good at piling on the pressure and just being non-stop active on the map with the units that he's got. He won't really lose that much either. There we go. Only one Marine right there does get killed. But once more, we saw a couple of creep troopers and then a few of those Zerglings as well. Zerg, though, didn't really lose that many workers here in the grand scheme of things, right? So we saw 13 workers go down. That's obviously pretty painful, but he has still been able to build up towards a very reasonable worker count. And he also does still finish up the hive right here for what seems to be before the 10-minute mark, or at the very least around the 10-minute mark. I don't see a... Do we see a Spire anywhere? No, I don't see a Spire anywhere. So I think this is going to be for Viper play or maybe some Ultralisks. We'll see what he decides to go for here in just a little bit. But this is definitely a game where TY is the one applying the pressure. And Zerg really hasn't been able to do that much just yet. If this continues onwards for too long... I mean, TY right now is going for the center base, not going for the one over here. This is a very aggressive staging ground, so to say, right? You can push across the map much easier and then fall back towards the defensive planetary fortress really easily. This is a tricky position to be in if you are the Terran player, or if you are the Zerg player, rather, because Terran is not going to slow down anytime soon. Alright, while indeed TY is once again gearing up to go for a push... We do see a lot of Zerglings and a couple of Banelings right now ready to make their way towards the natural as well. The depots are down, and this is a kind of break that Solar needs right here, okay? This will now indeed force the Terran player to not only pay attention at home, but also to counter this aggression. I mean, he's gonna, or to cancel the aggression, rather. We do see a couple of the SCVs killed right now. Burrow not done just yet, so these Lings are not gonna be able to burrow on the ground and sit back for a little while longer. All things considered, actually, this defense here for Solar... for TY, rather, has been extremely good. 8 SCVs right there is really nice. I mean, one pesky little Zergling is still biting away right there at the engineering bay, or clawing away, whatever they do. Do they bite or do they claw? I'm not entirely sure. SCVs, though, are going to be able to clean that up. But at the very least, it allowed Solar a little bit of breathing room, because immediately when the Lings went in, these siege tanks and marines decided to return back home again as well. There's also now a little bit more creep spread. Great corrosive piles right there. Manages to pick up some of those liberators. Ultras are gonna come out, and now we do see the Ultralisk cavern also researching right there the chitinous plating upgrade, which is really, really good. Ooh, nice little set of corrosive piles. Once more picking up a couple of those Terran units. But TY is once again gonna have to deal with a lot of units that are moving across the map. Burrow is gonna finish up in just a couple of seconds, and these Lings now also do have adrenal glands, which is extremely scary. Their attack speed just went up very quickly, and they might even be able to pick up the engineering bay right here that's researching some of these upgrades. At the same time, though, there's a push across the side of the map. TY is not slowing down. He wants to close this game out right here, right now, but in the meantime, he's losing so very much. The Ultralisk are now available as well. Blinding Clouds being utilized too. That's gonna shut down some of those Marines, and at the very least force them to micro out of that little cloud. Lings are burrowed now all over the map. Zerg is on top of the Terran production, so Solar is gonna be able to pick up a lot of those Marines and siege tanks for basically free, but the 5th hatchery does get picked off, and TY is still in a very, very strong position here as well. Still, though, I like this damage here that he's dealing, right? This is the scary part about Zerg being on top of your production. If that happens, they will be able to trade extremely favorably, because these Terran units are mostly powerful. And actually, Command Center right there gets killed as well. That was not a cancel. But they're mostly just powerful when they get to group up in a small little ball, because otherwise the Lings just get so much surface area in as well. Now, this is wonderful, though, for TY, right? Yeah, look at that. This high ground position here is phenomenal. That's exactly what you want. We even see the adrenal, what's it called? Adrenal synthesis, or I don't know exactly what this upgrade is called anymore. Anabolic synthesis, that's it. That's the Ultralisk speed upgrade. Ultras with that upgrade can move 20% faster off creep. And considering the creep spread has been an absolute disaster so far in this game for Solar, he's been trying to make the best of it. Once again, man, Lings flood in, but this is going to be a very helpful upgrade when it comes to breaking this very defensive Terran position right here as well. So many SCVs, though, have gone down, right? It was a very clutch decision there for Solar to decide to send so many Zerglings in for the counterattack when he knew that he might very well be losing that 5th base. Lings right now coming up as well. Still Lings going to town over here. And in total, we already see 43 of those SCVs going down. And Lings are not done just yet. TY, while he seemed to be in control here of the early game, he's all of a sudden in a bit of an awkward scenario as he is dealing, well, a little bit of damage on the other side of the map, but he's taking way more damage at the exact same time as well. Matter of fact, Drop's going to continue right here on the left-hand side too. TY, though, being extremely patient, right? That kind of categorizes his play as well. He's very good at harassing, but he's also still a very patient man. He doesn't overstay his welcome here. He's slowly clearing out the creep, and whenever the creep is gone, that's when he once again sieges up a little bit closer towards the Zerg's face, right? Towards the throat of that Zerg army. Alright, finally, well, we have some long-distance mining right here in the natural, but finally, the Ling aggression has been shut down, and it looks like Solar ended up losing his 4th hatchery here as well. The supply count right now, though, very, very even. That's a very scary amount of Ultras. They're well upgraded. The Queens actually have been saving up energy right here as well to hit those transfuses on the Ultras here when needed. Most of the Liberators actually have been picked off. Corruptors now coming up as well. If they can go after those Liberators, they're actually going to be in a pretty good spot. A couple of Marines, though, trying to be a bit of a nuisance here. There's already a couple Corruptors on the left-hand side of the map. I think they may have cleared out... Ooh, you got to be careful. You can't lose Ultras like that. But they've been clearing out, I think, that medevac drop. But here we go. Zerg decides to move forward. Banelings rolling in. But that is a lot of siege tanks. That is a lot of siege tanks. How many tanks have gone down this game? 5 only. So for every 20 Marines, 5 or 1 siege tank, I guess, went down. That is not a very good ratio here for Zerg. Siege tanks are actually quite good when it comes to dealing with this amount of Ultralisks. Great spreading right there as well by the Terran player, not really allowing those blinding clouds to hit too many of the tanks. TY has cleared out the creep a lot, right? There's still some Zerglings on the other side of the map trying to get some of that damage in, but TY is trying to push his opponent back right now. He's trying to force this Zerg player into a choke. When that happens, obviously the service area of these siege tanks is extremely solid. I love the fact how slowly and how patiently he is moving, though. He's been up against a lot of those scary Zerg units, and I think a lot of Terran players at that point would just stim forward onto the creep and get surrounded, right? If the Banelings connect onto the creep, the Marines cannot really go anywhere, but he's been playing this very, very slowly and very, very patiently. Even a Widowmine switch right now coming up, but here we go. Zerg once again wants to move forward. We see Corrosive Bowels going down as well. They will be able to, at the very least, get rid of some of those siege tanks. Ultra, though, gets picked off, and TY finds himself in a really good position. The Corruptors moving across the map. Maybe they were planning on, like, caustic spraying down this planetary fortress here in the center of the map. With most of those Liberators picked off, I think it would have been a good idea, but the amount of siege tanks still left over here for TY is a little bit too high. He's been showcasing us some ridiculously good control on those units as well. Finally, he starts moving onto the creep, but that's at the point when Solar has already lost so very much. I love the fact that this build up from that Battlecruiser Harass, right? This was basically Battlecruiser Harass into non-stop aggression right here from TY. If Solar wouldn't have gotten those Zerglings into the main base and into the natural, I think this game would have looked extremely one-sided. Because of those Zergling runbys though, and I'm really impressed he decided to commit so many links to that push. I mean, he was already under a lot of pressure, and then he's like, you know what, I'm gonna just send half my army across the map and do counter damage instead. Obviously, it turned out to be the correct call in this game, but what if those depots were up, right? What if those depots were up and there were so many... so many of those Terran units ready to reinforce as well behind the wall. It would have been a very different game, I feel like. But well done right there by TY. Solar trying his best to make his way back into the game, but TY taking firm control of the early game. And while he looked a little bit more sloppy in the mid game, it still was enough to power through. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button down below. And if you want to see more, make sure you hit that subscribe button as well as the bell icon so you get notifications as soon as I upload more. A special shout out to the Patreon supporters. Thank you guys very much for the generosity. But for now, I want to thank you for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile alright. And I will see you once more in the next one.